Insight. The first ever series to analyze the unexplored aspects and issues of Carnatic music. Kai koda venume kanda ninnarul enakum kai koda venume kanda ninnarul enakum kai koda venume kanda nin arul 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 enakum kai koda venume. மை கூடு தமிழ் போனி நக்கீரருணகிரிக்கும் மை கூடு தமிழ் போனி நக்கீரருணகிரிக்கும் ஐயானில் அருள் வந்து கூடிய வரது போல் கை கூட வேணுமே கந்தானின் அருள் எனக்கும் கை கூட வேணுமே. சுத்தாங்க சோம சுந்தர பங்கில் உறையுமா லத்தாங்கி மீனாங்க நயனி பால மதங்க சூரருடல் மாளவேள் வாங்குகிற தளாக கவி குல்சர தாசல் செல் தமிழ் வாங்க கை கூட வேணுமே கந்தானின் அருள் எனக்கும் கை கூட வேணுமே. Dear Rasikas, welcome to the 8th episode of our Insight series. Today we'll be discussing about the concert structure in the context of Carnatic music. If you look at a piece of art, be it music, dance, drama, poetry or painting, we see that all this is created deliberately for our human experience. And thus each of this creation is very, very unique and it cannot be replicated again verbatim, in the sense that if you are presenting a concert and with the same list of songs, if I'm asked to again present a concert of the same items, even then you would see that it would be much different from what I did before, because of the fact that the creative element is involved here. So that's why I said that every artwork is very, very unique in its structure. If we look at any good piece of art, we see that it has the property of order, proportion and unity. Now this concept of proportion again is very, very relative, in the sense that if you look at a concert of Hindustani music and Carnatic music itself, in Hindustani music most often you would see that the whole concert itself will have about 2 pieces maximum, and then after that maybe a bhajan or something would follow as a concluding piece. Whereas in a Carnatic music, singing of multiple items is the aesthetics involved here. So here the proportion actually means singing a number of pieces with some of them having little bit of manodharma attached to it, and for some we do elaborate kind of manodharma. So the concept of proportion in each also differs. That's what I wanted to share with you here. Again, also within each artist, that is from artist to artist, you see that how he conceives the concert is very, very different. For example, in a 2-hour concert, an artist may just sing 4 pieces, another artist may sing 12 pieces, and so on. But ultimately, the whole presentation should have that sense of unity, a sense of wholeness, and that is what is very, very important. A fine piece of music, for example, can capture us and hold our attention. It gives us harmony within as well as outside of us, and that's why we say that all these kinds of creations that are done for our human enjoyment also uplift us. And that is where we see that classical music is not merely an entertainment but also enrichment and enlightenment. Coming to a concert, what is a concert? How do we define it? A concert is a public performance of music before an audience, and the audience which come there do so mainly for the purpose of listening to it. So we see that while the performer trains himself over several years to hone and perfect his performing skills, we also have an audience which mentally prepares to come for a concert. It is not just like barging into a concert hall, just like that, listening for 10 minutes and going out. Especially in the area of Mylapore, I have interestingly observed how, because there is a temple nearby and also a market nearby, there are some rasikas who just buy vegetables and just peep into the auditorium, sit for 10 minutes and go off. Or so there may be some important occasion in the temple, people may visit the temple, and because there are some auditoriums which are near the hall, they may just come into it and listen for 10 minutes and go. So that kind of a listening is not a holistic experience. You have to really prepare yourself mentally in terms of enjoyment of the aesthetic experience, and that's when the concert gives you that fulfilling and enriching experience. The concert is also called a program, recital, etc., or a performance also. And in Indian context, we call it a kacheri. Now, a kacheri is a very, again, generalized term, I would say. It does not actually refer to a music performance, though we use it in the context of a music performance. Sometimes we also refer to as seat kacheri, where there are a number of people playing cards together, or a pech kacheri, where a number of people sit and talk together. So the kacheri is again is a very broad terminology, but when we refer to it in the context of music, we understand that it is a program or a performance. Looking at a Carnatic kacheri, we see that a typical concert has got multiple items in it, in the sense that a concert is packed with a number of items. How do we present a concert? A typical model concert, if I take, it starts off with a Varnam, then we have a Kriti on Lord Ganesha, then after that we have a number of smaller pieces, a sub-main item, then some more songs, and then the main piece, Taniyavartanam, and the Tukada pieces. This is a general model concert, I would say, and if it's going to be a much more elaborate kind of a presentation, it would also include a Ragam Tanam Pallavi. We also know that this kind of a concert with multiple items was mainly devised by Sri Ariyakudi Ramanuja Iyengar. And we also, when we look at history, we see that there have been times when the same ragam has been played for hours together, and we also have people who have mastered this art like Todi Sita Ramayya, Narayana Gola Kuppayar, and so many names have been given to the musicians to show that they were versatile in performing a particular raga. And also in the courts of great kings, we see that musicians performed hours on end. But with the music getting transferred from courts and temples to the sabhas, it needed a reformation in the sense that when you are performing in a sabha, you see that there is not only the connoisseur of music sitting there, but also lay rasikas are a part of the audience. So to create a via media and to have a concert list which would cater both to the connoisseur as well as the layman, Ariyakudi Ramanuja Iyengar tailored a beautiful format which had all the ingredients of a concert beautifully structured into it. So coming back to the items, starting from Varnan to the Tillana, we have a multitude of items and each one of them in different ragams, different talams, different tempos, different structures and so on. Coming to the languages in which a kacheri compositions are performed, mainly we have Telugu because of the fact that most of the compositions of Tyagaraja are in Telugu. Shama Sastri also composed in Telugu. A bulk of compositions are also seen in Sanskrit, and the main contribution here comes from Sri Muthuswami Dikshidhar and other composers. We also have compositions in Kannada, like for example the compositions of Purandaradasa, and of course in Tamil we have had many composers, the main one being Sri Papanasam Sivan. And then today, of course, many more items from other languages like Abhangs in Marathi, then some of the Malayalam songs, even for example Bengali songs have also come to be a part of the Tukda items. But the main point I want to focus here is that the core structure, the core compositions of a Carnatic music are mainly in Telugu, Tamil, Sanskrit and Kannada. Coming to the Tala, we have the four main Talas, Adi, Rupakam, Vishrachapu, Khandachapu, and almost all the compositions which are performed in concerts would fit into this. Of course, there are some rare compositions in Jampa Talam or in a Rendikala Rupaka Talam or some other rare talams. If you are going to perform a Ragam Dhanam Pallavi, then we see that artists take up challenging ragas and talas and challenging structures to perform. And there the tala, of course, can take different varieties and different intricate formats for presentation. Coming to the time duration of the concert, earlier I also mentioned in one of my episodes where concert used to be performed overnight for 6 hours and all. Now that is something unimaginable, and today a concert generally is of about 2.5 hours to 3 hour duration. Sometimes of course 4-5 hours do happen, especially in states like Kerala. Still now we see that concerts are performed for very, very long hours. But as part of the Sabha culture, we see that 2.5 hours to 3 hours has become the norm today. As for the instruments that are a part of the concert setup, earlier we understand that the veena was used to accompany vocal concerts, but then with the coming in of the violin, that has become the ideal instrument to accompany a vocal music concert, in the sense that the violin is able to produce the vocal bani to the closest, and that's why it has become very, very popular as an accompanying instrument in the Carnatic music concert. As for the percussion, we see that mridangam is the predominant percussion instrument. We also see the upapakadyam like ganjira, ghatam, morsing accompanying them. What I said now pertains to a vocal concert, but even in a instrumental concert you see what is the setup. For example, if it's a flute concert, you would see that they are most often accompanied again by the violin and the percussion instruments, mridangam, with an option of the other upapakadya instruments. If it's a veena concert, sometimes they do have a violin accompaniment, but very often you see that in the veena concert, they abstain from having any melodic accompaniment to them, and they would be performing with a mridangam and a ghatam or a mridangam and ganjira and so on. This also applies to other instruments, for example, saxophone or a mandolin and so on. In the Nadaswaram tradition, we see that the main accompaniment in terms of the percussion is the tawil. This is indeed an unparalleled combination of the Nadaswaram and tawil, which is so very, very unique to our Carnatic music. Now there have been many, many changing trends, and we also see that Hindustani instruments have become a part of our concert genre, in the sense that some of the saxophone concerts we see that tabla is also used to accompany, or sometimes we see jugalbandis happening where a South Indian instrument combines with a North Indian instrument, like for example a violin and a sitar combo. So in this kind of a combo, you see that we also have mridangam as well as tabla accompanying, and then it becomes a different kind of a color and flavor for us. The main element, of course, which needs to be mentioned very, very specially, which binds the entire music together, is the tambura. Without the tambura, none of the music actually makes sense, in the sense that the tambura gives the adhara shruti, based on which the vocalist sings, and all the other instruments also tune themselves perfectly in accordance with this shruti. Here I would like to make a mention about the original tambura, which adorned the stage in such a beautiful manner. Of course, it does do even in today's context, but then with the electronic tamburas coming in and electronic gadgets taking its place, the tambura is slowly vanishing away. The tambura, in fact, in earlier days, we see that most often it was the shishya of the main performer who used to accompany on the tambura, and today also this happens in many cases. We also have number of tambura artists, but now that has become a diminishing clan. I would just like to share an anecdote with you, where once the tambura artist was booked by our performer, but he never turned up. So then in that case, what happened was, we had to make an announcement to see if there was anybody in the audience who could play the tambura, and then somebody volunteered and they came up to stage and they played the tambura for the performer. In another case, which was another example, I would say, of how technology has taken its toll on the original instrument tambura, once an artist came to our performance in our sabha, and at that time he did have a tambura, but then again on that day the tambura player didn't turn up. Adding to this agony, he had actually brought an electronic tambura, but then by mistake the bag in which that electronic tambura was left behind in a cab that he had taken to come to the auditorium, and the cab had already left, and then we were not able to trace it at all. So there was no electronic tambura, and the original tambura player was also not there at that moment. So immediately he switched on his mobile and the concert went on for 3 hours. So this also reiterates the point that original instrument, the tambura, has given way to this kind of electronic gadgets taking its place also. But the question always remains whether all these electronic gadgets can really replace the unparalleled tone of the tambura with its beautiful undertones. In this episode, you saw the concert structure in terms of how multiple items form its construction, how different languages are used in it, the ragams, the thalams, and how a concert is presented, and what are the accompaniments which are used particularly in a Carnatic concert. With this, we come to the conclusion of this episode. If you have any questions or doubts, please do email or WhatsApp to me. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of my series. Till then, happy watching to you. Thank you.